Happens. We are recording. You all set?
All set. All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Francisco Valenzuela, or Fran. Everybody calls me Fran.
Fran, sorry, hang on half a sec. People
Okay.
I can see them ticking in here. So give them 30 seconds to join in here. We had
Sure.
Yeah, there's only about half of what we had in the other one, and I can see the numbers scrolling up. So let's I know we're tight for time, but hopefully we're not that tight. Like I said earlier, one of the most powerful pieces in my mental health toolkit is the ability to just slow down. All right, man, I'm going to drop off and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hey, everyone. My name's Francisco Valenzuela. Everybody calls me Fran. It's a lot easier to say. So just a little bit about me and why I'm talking to you today at the Love Letter to Men. I am a fly-in, fly-out, or FIFO worker. I've been living this lifestyle for 14 years. It's been amazing, but it's also been terribly challenging at the same time. So today I just want to talk a little bit about some of those challenges and the benefits associated with this lifestyle. So I'll just jump right in with the challenges. Working a FIFO lifestyle creates a disconnect. There's no way around it, whether you are at home or at work. So when you are essentially creating two lives, when you're either at work, you're away from your family at home, and you're disconnected from them. And then when you're at work, when you're back at home, you're disconnected from work. So it's not like your traditional Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 job where you're with your work teams and during the day, and then you get to reconnect with your family back home at the end of the day. So there are those challenges. Also, it's not just the physical distance that creates that disconnect. Depending on where your family lives, time zones. So imagine that you're working here in Northern Alberta, like I am. As you can see, I'm actually at work right now. This is my camp room. And your family is out east, out in Newfoundland. So you get off work after a 12-hour day, at 6:30, back at camp, and you've got young kids, and it's past their bedtime, so you don't get that chance to reconnect with them. So there are those challenges. The other thing is we actually become reliant on others back home to help support our families when we're away. We can't be where we want to be all the time. We're either away at work or we're at home. So you do miss important events. It's particularly hard when you miss emergencies, because sometimes it's not a matter of, it's going to take you, up to an hour to get home. No, oftentimes it's many hours, and it can be days depending on flights, and availability of ways to get home. So I've known many people that haven't been home for, sadly, passing away of family members. Right. And then when these things do happen, like you missed birthdays, you missed Christmas. I've missed 3 Christmases and a whole bunch of Thanksgivings, which were very important to a family that I had. And, this can create a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and tons of frustration. It can also increase the feelings of isolation and loneliness. You're back at your camp room and, you're by yourself, and, if it's the time zone's different, you might not be able to have that conversation with loved ones at home. So it's tough. I had a colleague once, and he and his partner chose not to have kids because of the fly in, fly out. So that's the sacrifice they chose. And I asked him about that, and he says, well, this lifestyle, it pays well, but it costs more. So that kind of resonated with me, and it's stuck with me. And I can share a personal story of mine where, my son, he's 21 now, my son Sebastian, and I wasn't there for him growing up. Really, I'd work as much as I could, because, as our business in the resource industry is very cyclical, boom and bust cycles. You can be busy and then you might not have work for months. So you had to work while you could. So I wasn't there, but I was able to buy him all sorts of things that he would have wanted. And I asked him, about the lifestyle. And then he actually said, Dad, I didn't want things. I wanted your time. And, really resonated. And it was hard to hear that even now. But it was one of those sacrifices. We sacrifice time with our family. It's not all bad. Like a lot of positives from this lifestyle. So I'll share some of those, right? One, the work is very rewarding. You get to work with really interesting and amazing people from all walks of life, from all parts of the world. You connect and build networks, and you don't know, you could be working in Canada 1 year, and then you could be working in another country, right? So all these experiences are very rewarding and very good for your career too, right? One of the things is you also do build your work family or work tribe. So it's one of those the ways you do to help not feel so lonely and so isolated is you actually have a surrogate family when you're at work. So that helps. Big thing is we benefit financially. There is a cost, right? So you have long hours, you've got remote locations, it's very demanding work, isolation from family and friends, and oftentimes some relationships don't survive, some friendships don't survive. So everything about this lifestyle has impacts on the decisions that we make. And the impact of those decisions and this lifestyle aren't just felt by the people doing the work. It's actually also felt by the families of them and their communities even. So it does have a very large ripple effect. So, I can share when I'd come home. So my ex-wife would always say I'd come home like a wrecking ball. So one of the truths is rotational life is disruptive. So for those at home, when we'd come home, and depending on the kind of person you are, some people, when they come home from work, from a week, 2 week rotation or longer, is they need to have a few days to decompress, be left alone, and that's what they need. Other folks like myself, I missed the routines of home life, and that was what grounded me, and I'd want to try and reintegrate into those routines, but often didn't do well with that. It was a struggle. I wasn't as efficient as they were, that they were doing it all the time. So that created a lot of frustration from them, and it did interrupt their routines and schedules, and that created a great deal of stress. The one thing is that stress, soon as that stress starts leading to resentment, that's when things start getting really bad. So to my statement of not all relationships survive, I'll share when I first started working this fly in, fly out lifestyle nearly 14 years ago. I remember coming up north and finally working for one of the oil majors. And I said to this grizzled old veteran, and I said, I'm finally big oil. And he looked at me, a smirk on his face, and he said, kid, you're not big oil till you have a divorce or two under your belt. I would have never imagined how prophetic that was. And the fact that there can almost be that expectation or belief that you're going to fail at some of those relationships and marriages. So guess my personal story is when you do this kind of lifestyle, you do have to take into account that you are going to make sacrifices. You don't get to not make a sacrifice. You do. You just have to be really communicative about what those sacrifices are going to be with yourself and also with your loved ones. So I'll share, for instance, my first marriage died of neglect. I was definitely more married to the work and my career, thinking, I'll have time later. And I've realized now, later on, that you never have time. You only can make time, and you make time for what's important. So in that aspect, I actually inadvertently chose my career. which has been very good. Like I love the work that I do, and the people I work with are amazing, but that's challenging. My second marriage, that one died of the disconnect. I firmly felt that I'm not going to make career my priority, going to make sure that I stay tuned into my family and spend the time with my family. But then that distance and the disconnect. And one of the biggest challenges is not getting help soon enough, right? Recognize the signs of disconnect to get connected with your loved ones, and start talking. As men, and Love Letter Men is great for helping us reduce the stigma. We're terrible at asking for help. We're terrible at looking for instructions or being honest and vulnerable with ourselves and even the people that we care about. So it's very important to do that. Um, the physical and mental strain of this, it like I said before, it requires a lot of sacrifices. It's a toll on you emotionally. We will make that sacrifice, and you have to choose and be cognizant of those sacrifices and discuss them with the people that you care about, because they will be making them alongside you. The loneliness and the isolation are real. The pandemic showed us that, where we were isolated at our work sites, where we were, we'd go eat our food by ourselves, we'd work by ourselves, and we'd go back to our camp rooms by ourselves. And I feel terrible for folks that were out east, because they had an additional challenge that they had to self-isolate for 14 days. When your rotations are 14 on, 14 off, I had one work colleague, and he struggled immensely. He actually didn't go home for 6 months because, there was no point. He'd go home and he wouldn't be able to be with his family. So he stayed here in Alberta. So very challenging. So, with all this, a lot of people ask me, well, why do you do it then? Well, I actually started conversations with people at site, and realized that when I wasn't alone with what I was feeling, I opened up, and then they'd open up, and, started a website called FIFO for Real, and, realized that there's a lot of us that do a great job of navigating this lifestyle, and we're just not connected, and we can share that knowledge amongst us. So the reason, well, the pay is a lot better when you're doing this kind of lifestyle. You have more time off. So the benefits can change lives. You can have and create a very comfortable lifestyle for those that are close to you, and give to your community. The work is very rewarding and exciting, and you do get lots of time off. Like I myself work 2 weeks on, and I'm off for 2 weeks. So I can get out to the mountains, go climbing or hiking, and yeah. The other thing is, there are thousands of us FIFO workers all over Canada. Just in the region up here in the Wood Buffalo, Fort McMurray region, there's upwards of 40,000 fly-in, fly-out workers. So we're not alone. One thing is, it's a lifestyle choice. It has impacts. Some of the costs are quite hidden, the emotional costs, and the rewards. One of the things is the rewards. They can't be really found anywhere else other than this lifestyle. So that's very cool. And the adventure of it, you do get to fly far-flung places in the world, meet exciting people. But the one thing I'll say is you can't really do it alone. So one of the things is, always try and you need to build a team around you. So one of the things I'll say is, seek help early. Like a lot of the other speakers say, talk to a therapist. I think that's important, not just for yourself, but for your family, to help understand what you're feeling. Because one thing is how I live this fly-in, fly-out life is very different to how my family experienced fly-in, fly-out, and vice versa. How they lived fly-in, fly-out at home alone without me was very different to how I experienced it for them, imagining their lives without me there. So make sure you do have counselors available, and you talk to them early, engage them early, right? Financial planners. I said earlier, this industry is very cyclical. So knowing how to save for those rainy days and those downturns is very important, because that puts tremendous strain on our mental and physical health. And it is a challenge, but if you're properly equipped, and I think of this when I do talk to people, is starting out in this industry, what would the me of today tell the me of yesterday on how to thrive in this life? Because you can thrive in this lifestyle, and it's pretty exciting too, even with everything that can go wrong. But when things go right, it's pretty amazing. I don't know, Mike, how am I doing for time?
You are pretty much out, my friend.
All right.
In 30 seconds, somebody asked, knowing what you know now, if you could rewind 14 years, would you do it all over again? Would you still choose the same path?
I would choose the same path, but I would engage help earlier on.
Yeah.
I would actually have counselors and start learning to be vulnerable as a man. Like, this industry is male dominated, and we don't talk enough, and we don't speak enough when we're struggling, and we keep it a secret from our families, our loved ones, and everyone else, and we suffer silently.
Yeah, and that's huge. Fran, thank you so much. Friends, I know there's so many questions that these presentations are bringing up. So what I did was I had the team actually add a page on the website, Ask One of Our Speakers. So if you want to go to the website, and there should be a tab now that says Ask a Speaker, you're welcome to ask a speaker a question, and I'll make sure that we get those to our speakers and we get those answered and back out to all of the participants. Fran, thank you again so much for coming on and sharing your story. It's great to see you out here again today, sharing the message. And folks, I dropped it in the lobby chat, but it's FIFO4real.ca, the number 4. FIFO, FIFO, number 4, REAL.ca. And we are a few minutes away from Mr. Clint Malarchuk sharing his story. And Clint, we will have time for some Q&A. So friends, I will see you back in the lobby, and we will get going with Mr. Malarchuk right away. Thanks again, Fran. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.